Welcome to the Blueprint Podcast, where we throw out the old blueprints so you can become who you were always meant to be. I'm your host, Jason Smith, and if you haven't already, make sure you click the subscribe button and share this podcast with your friends on social media and tag me in it at JBirdFit. Today, I have a special guest for you, Kavita Ajwani. Kavita is a certified dating coach with over a decade of experience helping growth-minded men find true love and connection. Starting as the speed dating queen with her successful speed dating company, Kavita transitioned to coaching, driven by her passion for guiding men in the dating world. Her unique approach has transformed the lives of countless men, helping them regain confidence and build meaningful relationships. Kavita, welcome to the Blueprint Podcast. Just like there's no shortcuts in dating. Let's get started. Kavita, welcome to the Blueprint Podcast. Tell everybody who you are and who you help.
I am Coach Kavita. I'm a love coach exclusively for growth-minded men who are looking to re-enter the dating scene and want to find love.
How did you get started in this journey of wanting to coach men, not just on dating and relationships, but all of the different struggles that come along with that?
I ran a speed dating company for
Okay.
many years. My company started as a speed dating company. I was known as the speed dating queen. And when I finally stopped running speed dating events, which was very challenging because speed dating was like in my DNA at that point.
At that point, are you traveling around, going to different places and setting up speed dating opportunities at different restaurants or bars or event spaces? Is that how that worked?
Yeah, it started that way for sure. And I learned the hard way that it can't just be me. I was
Oh,
much younger at the time. And I remember I hosted a Valentine's Day event. And it was the first time I ran multiple events on the same night. And I had this dream. I'm like, I'm going to do 4 events simultaneously across 4 different cities. And it was that day I realized. I remember it was a success. I did it. It was the first time ever I actually ran more than one event at the same time because it was me always booking the tickets, themes, buying the materials, going to the restaurant, bar, setting up, hosting the event, coming home, doing the matches. And it was that day I realized, even though it was a huge success, I went into my car after running my event and I just burst into tears because it was so overwhelming managing everything all at once. And it was, I think, not my last event I ever hosted, but that was when I really took a back seat and I grew a company. And what I realized I became was an event planner. I got into this to help people find love, to be front and center in terms of welcoming people and introducing them to each other. And that's what drew me into the business in the first place. And then for many years, I was at home running this thing, doing the hiring, shipping out materials now. And I finally, I even ran it during the pandemic. And then finally I said, you know what? I didn't sign up to be an event planner forever. And alongside, I had always been coaching clients, which I was doing out of pure passion. Like I was like, oh, if only I could do more of this, if only I could do more of this. And when I finally made that switch, I coached men and women for a long time. And one day I just took a look. I hadn't even realized, but I just took a look at all of my past clients, and there were double the number of men than women. And it was so shocking to me because I'm a girly girl. I do have a very masculine energy, but on the surface, I'm a girly girl. And my content and the way I imagined that I would be perceived would draw women in. So it was very interesting to me that really by being my authentic self, I was attracting more men to my services. And men were feeling really comfortable around me, and men wanted to sign up and be in this space. And it got to a point where I was like, I can't keep putting out content for men and women. It's so different. And I really wanted to go deep and really understand the struggles and really help either men or women. And when I looked at that, that was one driving factor. And the other one was I realized in my last big cohort, I had a men's cohort and a women's cohort. Every time I had to show up to teach and coach women, I was kind of stressed for some reason. I would be a little bit
Now,
stressed.
there's a reason. So let's dig into that for a
Yeah.
second. What was it about that was causing a little stress?
Yeah, expectations.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, expectations, I think would be the biggest thing. I just felt that there was a lot of pressure on me. And when I had a men's cohort, I was just really relaxed and at ease. I really felt like I could show up and I would be I don't know, I didn't feel the pressure. And I really trusted that the feeling, like I really was just like, okay, this something is telling me that this is where I'm supposed to be and this is where I feel good. And when I feel good, I'm going to be able to do my best work. And
Yeah,
yeah.
I think part of that is because you're showing up as your authentic self. You're embodying that inner feminine, even though you have some masculine traits and qualities that help you in business and in other areas. But then you get to interact with men who are openly receiving that. And then they get really interested because they like how this feels. They like this interaction. They're like, okay, I want more of this. So teach me how to get more of what this feels like.
Mhm.
Then, from a teaching standpoint or educational standpoint, what are some of the biggest challenges that you've found over the years that men face? If there were top three challenges, what would you say those are?
Confidence in themselves, just believing two sides to confidence. One, in the way they're actually presenting themselves in dating with women, like what they're putting out there, having that confidence with women and dating.
What are they putting out there?
Yeah, what are they putting out? And then on the other side, confidence just is this going to happen for me? Like
Yeah.
they lost that confidence in this dream of being with a partner, getting the girl, having a girlfriend, having a deep connection with someone. They don't have the confidence that can happen for them anymore. So it's like this double-sided confidence sword.
If they're suffering from an issue of lack of confidence, what are some of the steps that you help navigate them through to be able to regain that sense of confidence in themselves?
One of the first things that we do, so I have a mini course. Now it's a course, but it's called Confidence King.
Hmm.
And sometimes what I explain to them is that or it feels that when I'm working with them, they feel like they have to go searching externally for their confidence. It's outward. They have to go find it somewhere. It's out there waiting for them, and they want to know where it is. And the first thing we do is, yes, you can go build confidence. You can go do things and you can go learn things and you can, if you wanted to spruce up your wardrobe and you could do those surface level things, you can build new skills. That'll give you confidence, sure. But it's really first step is reconnecting with the confidence that you already have, that you've disconnected from, that you have completely forgotten about exists. You're not recognizing all of the things that have gotten you to where you are today. And when I'm sitting in front of a man who has invested in himself by working with me, that is the kind of guy that has several accomplishments in his life and he's just not giving himself any credit. So it's really about first sitting down and I call it like chiseling, yeah, chiseling away this block
Yeah.
that they've put around themselves and finding that I call it like the statue of David. Let's find that. Let's find that. Let's go there. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Okay.
What it really comes down to is they've got this barrier around them that they've been conditioned to create because of past experiences that
Mhm.
they've had. There's this massive amount of conditioning that's happened over long periods of time, and you lose a little bit of your joy, your happiness, your sense of self because you end up realizing that we grow up to be perfect little people pleasers, do as I say, be a good boy, all of these things, and then you lose yourself in that process and you become disconnected. I like what you're saying, and that is you chip away at that block, the true authentic version of you
Mhm.
ends up manifesting out of something that is built off of pain and frustration and agony and sadness and anxiety and fear and frustration and
Mhm.
resentment. And I want people to know that it's not something that happens overnight. You're not going to take a course and in 21 days, all of these things are going to happen. It becomes a lifelong practice that you have to implement all of these tools consistently, have the discipline with it. And then over time, you grow to know and love yourself. And I
Mhm.
think that's a really big part of it.
I will say, I love everything you said. I will say that sometimes doing this kind of work, not just sometimes, often there are these aha breakthrough moments in the 21 days, in an hour where it's like, oh, I can't believe this has all been like sitting here. I am proud of myself. I do have so much that I bring to the table. Some of the frameworks that we do, we go through what do you like about yourself? What are you proud of? What are your accomplishments? Let's just go through that list. We go through what do you like about yourself physically? 10 things. Let's talk about it. We also cover like the big stuff. Maybe, okay, maybe you like your smile, maybe you like your teeth, for example. But then the small stuff like personal charms, I get them to go deep, which a lot of men, people in general, but a lot of men, they've never even, no one's ever really given them the space or opportunity to even think about this. And then they'll share with me, like, I like my eyes and I like my dimples. And my mom has always liked this about, and they start to feel a way they've never felt before. We talk about what do you bring to the table in a relationship? What do you bring to the table? And again, we do the bigger stuff. Oh, I would be a loyal guy, I would be a loyal boyfriend, I would be um I'm great at planning dates. And then we go deeper into the personal charms. Again, it's I would make coffee in the morning and bring it to her in bed, or I make the best spaghetti, or I little things. And really, I call them the uniquely you pieces. And just that exercise and going through those steps together, they can have a breakthrough moment. I've witnessed it several times where they're finally like, I have so much going on here that I've just forgotten about. And that newfound confidence can transform the way they're showing up on dating apps, at events, approaching women, just by recognizing and acknowledging themselves for the first time.
Aside from confidence, what
Mhm.
are two other challenges that men are facing right now when it comes to dating relationships or even just their own personal development?
Yeah, dating apps.
Let's talk about dating apps.
Let's talk about dating apps.
I
So,
have my own opinion. I think they're worthless,
okay,
but you tell me what you think about
yeah.
dating apps.
I think that if you are actively looking to meet someone and it is important to you, it is worthwhile to invest the time and effort to get it set up right. I don't think you should be spending all of your time and energy there. But similar to if you are a professional and you are looking for a really great job and you want that dream job, it would probably not be a good idea to not have yourself set up on LinkedIn, that kind of thing. Get the headshot. If you need someone to help you, get someone to help you, but set it up right. And initially, that it's usually the reason we don't do it is because we just don't want to do that initial groundwork. But that's the benefit, which is put the time in, spend however many hours you need to, throw some money at the situation if you can, get it set up so that it's there working for you in the background. It's literally the one place besides like a speed dating event, it's the one place where all the singles are without having to sift through and check ring fingers and all that stuff. It's there. So get yourself set up right, get the right pictures. And I think with men specifically, most profiles are so bad that with a little bit of guidance and effort, you can really stand out among the crowd. So I think there is a way to get them to work for you. And I think it's important to remember that women are equally frustrated with the online dating experience. It's not just men. I think men feel like women are having a blast. It's a party for them. We're all struggling on dating apps. So, not to bond with someone over that, but just to not go into it with this mindset of we're against each other here.
Right.
And we're on the same team, we're working towards the same things. Have a little bit more compassion and approach it differently with that in mind. Let's not make it so hard for each other. So there's a lot of miscommunication and there is a way to win.
Yeah, I think a big part of it ends up being demographic of where you live. So if you're in a big city, I can tell you going to Chicago, you're going to get a lot of qualified matches, quality matches almost within 10 minutes of being in the city, right? You come into the airport, you're here, you can do a bunch of swiping and it's that easy. However, you get further down into the state, let's say Southern Illinois,
Mhm.
it's a little more difficult because everything's more spread out. You've got more people who are married or they're single with kids, and that can be a barrier sometimes, or it's not the type or quality of match that you're really looking for. Because a lot of times, what I talk about is honing in on your goals, your values, and your standards for a relationship with you. And inside of all of that is your boundaries. When you understand all of those things, you start looking at dating apps very differently because what you would qualify or pre qualify a date for previously, oh, they're good looking, but it says right here that they smoke weed. I don't smoke weed. I'm not really down for that, but they're super cute. And then you go on a date because, oh, they're super cute.
Mhm.
Now that's just gone against your values for what you actually want in a relationship. And if you're dating intentionally with the goal of being in a monogamous relationship that ultimately leads to marriage and children and all that other fun stuff, then you have to get really clear on the picture that you want, the type of relationship that you're willing to have with somebody. And so going on those types of dates when they're already out of bounds for what you want, you end up getting what you deserve in that scenario.
I think the same would apply though, based on city. I hear this all the time. Your where you live matters. So even if
Yeah.
you're like in the popular cities in downtown, whatever, your options are going to be more whether you're online or doing stuff in person. I have a lot of clients that they are in the outskirts, they're in the boondocks, and they're only doing in-person stuff. There's nothing to do. Options are
Right.
equally limited. So it just reflects each other. What your online experience is going to be similar to your in-person experience. But I think whether it's apps or not, you need to get clear on those things. And would the same thing not apply in person? You see an attractive person, you don't have that information about them. You're going on a date based on that immediate attraction. You don't know if they smoke weed. You might find out
Right.
later that they smoke weed.
I think it really comes down to you knowing who you are and what you want from a relationship and the energy that you put out into the world. You're going to end up receiving that back. So I'm a big proponent for doing the things that you love, being out in public, meeting as many people as you can in public because you get to express yourself in a way that's more authentic to you, and people, they feed off that. They feel your energy in that moment. And so if you're out in public, whether that's getting coffee or, I'm not a huge fan of bars, when you're in the smaller town areas, that's usually where people are going to be hanging out. You have a better sense of what the experience is and how they're operating in that scenario. You see them talking to other people, you see the way that they carry themselves, and there's a lot of information that you can glean from body language. So when it comes to meeting in person, I think for me, that is so much better. At the same time, it's what you're doing in your business, which is allowing yourself to grow and expand and to put yourself in new and different rooms that previously you wouldn't have believed that you belonged in necessarily. So novelty, I think, is really important. And if you don't like the experiences that you're having in the area in which you live, then it might be time to go on a solo vacation or get out there and do something new and different in your life that's going to allow you to have access to different people.
Yeah.
The other part of that is working on yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Because, like we said, you have that block that's all around you. And so that's the barrier to you being able to see the opportunities that are actually available to you in relationships. So the more you chip away at that block and you begin to hone the different parts of you and you build the skills that you missed out on when you were younger as a child and you've grown into this adult and you never saw it, you never experienced it, you never observed it. So how can you be the person that is going to be able to attract in that type of relationship?
Yeah.
That's why you get into coaching. That's why they get into coaching with you to be able to get rid of that block and then gain access to different types and quality matches?
A big part of what I do is like even thinking. So I will always question. Okay, you don't want to date the person who smokes weed. Why? You don't have to date the person that smokes weed, but why? And a lot of the time, these checklists, which I hate, have not been questioned in forever. They've not been questioned. And we will go through them one by one. Why does this matter to you? Was it because, I don't know, you felt this way at 20, or you had a partner that smoked weed at 20 years old and now it's just this thing that you, I don't know, it triggers you now, but why? Then there's the other thing, which is like there is this like duality in the world, and the most important thing you can do is explore, like, what if I did the opposite? What does that look like? What if I dated someone who's the opposite? So that we can find ourselves somewhere in the middle when we actually go. And that's what travel does, right? Like you go,
Right.
you explore, you pop this bubble that you're in, you see what's available, you see the type of women that are out there that are so different from, you've been conditioned to meet and date the kind of women that are in your rural area. And you actually go out and see, oh my God, there are women that I would never even have thought could be my type. So I think it's really important to get clear. You have to get so clear on who you are, what you're all about, what you stand for to today. And I think a lot of people are stuck in a version of themselves from before, and they're bringing that into their dating experiences now. So I do think it's important to question everything and go out and explore not only the opposite of you and that complete other side of you, but I think of others as well.
How do you get people to let go that old version of themselves?
I think when they're working with me, that's why they're working with me. There's something that is here that's not working. And part of my process is to, if you're going to work with me, you have to trust me, and you have to trust my process. People say, if I'm going to, I will do this and not this. I'm like, this is a formula. To an extent, this is a formula. I ran a 30-day program recently, which was a short program, but there were some non-negotiables in the program. Like you had to meditate for 30 days. You had to do this small talk challenge. It's a 30-day thing. No one's saying go meditate on top of a mountain in a year from now, but
Right.
there's a thing. You want your goal is you want attention from women. You haven't had attention from women in so long. Why meditate? They're like, why would I ever meditate? This has nothing to do with it. And I'm like, listen, you signed up, you want these results, these are the things you have to do. And I had clients that were like, I'm not going to do this part, or it's like, yeah, the program's going well, but I haven't been doing this. And I'm like, it was literally called the 30 for 30 formula. It is a formula. When you remove an ingredient, it is no longer a formula. It no longer tastes the same. It doesn't work anymore.
Right.
um so that's coming into my world. Is I have worked with so many people who have found love. And when you've been in this space for so long, or as I'll speak for myself, I've been in this space for so long that no matter who the person is, where they've come from, where they're going, those things matter. But there are certain pieces that just work and have worked again and again and again and again. And having that experience, now I can bring those pieces in and be like, okay, these are the things. And this is the way it flows, right? Starting with the confidence king and cultivating your confidence and chipping away that block. So following a very specific process overall.
Yeah, trying to get people to follow steps in a process. Everybody asks for it. Everybody wants it. Tell me what to do and I'll do it.
Yeah.
And then you lay it out, you give it to them. You can put it all nice and neat in an Excel spreadsheet or something that's super easy for them to access, that they can keep on their phone, look at, or paste on the mirror or whatever. And they have to look at it every day. But getting them to actually take the steps for all 30 days it's brutal sometimes because they don't trust themselves, and they end up in this place of sabotaging themselves because they don't think that they deserve it. It's not that they can't do it. You absolutely can do it. You can do anything for 30 days, right? You can put the effort into it. You can be disciplined. You can be consistent. But I think the barrier ends up being you don't trust yourself and you don't believe that you're worthy of the investment. And I think that's a really hard barrier to overcome.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm a certified coach. I've been in programs, I've done the work, and part of becoming a coach, it was finally realizing that I don't have to control what someone's outcome is. And trusting and believing and honoring them for where they're at in their process. So I'm not the put I will say, listen, if you're not getting the exact result that you say you wanted, that's because you're not doing these things, but you may not be ready to do those things, and that's also okay. It's honoring that. Actually took me a long time, was to realize that your timeline is your own, and you will move at a pace that makes sense for you. And it could actually backfire moving a little, like moving too quickly.
Yeah.
It could feel wrong. So I really look at you as whole and creative and resourceful and not broken. And I am here to support and serve and give you all the tools that you need, but ultimately the choice is yours. That that's okay.
Yeah, I think that's a really important element is that power of choice, that recognition of I've never actually asked myself, what do I want? And right now in this moment, I don't want to do all of this. And then it's okay, then don't do all of this right now. And that's part of that learning process, that learning of self, of accepting that, yeah, I don't have to do what everybody tells me to do. I can actually do what I want to do, and that's okay.
Yeah. It's different when you're in a program with lots of other people, when you're working like privately. When I'm working with someone one on one, we can address these things individually. It's okay, well,
Right.
this isn't working for you. How come? Or you wanted this, you said you wanted this, you wanted to be going on X number of dates, or now you're pulling back. What's going on here? In a group, it's a little bit different, even though I'm very involved and I become just I'm so immersed in the space. Even I don't hold myself to my own boundaries, but I think it's fine. I love it and I'm in there and
What's a boundary that you're not holding yourself to?
not so we have a group chat running. I'll be like, hey, I'm only checking the group chat in the morning, give
Right.
my 2 cents, get things moving. And then I will come back at the end of the day. And then all day I'm like, what's going on here? And then I'll tell them, like, guys, you're on your own. I'm not like no advice is coming in today. And then they'll be asking questions to each other. And I'm like in there and I'm like, okay, here's the thing. And I'm answering the questions anyway. So that's one example. I think I speak to people and even people joining the program, they're like, I don't know if I'm ready for this, or I don't know if I'm ready to date. And it's like the best way to figure this stuff out is not to sit back and think about it till the end of time. It's to go take action and you'll get your answers. If you don't know if you're ready to date, go out and try to date. Go on a date and you will find out very quickly if you should be dating or not.
Right.
In this program, like the one we had about 50 men join the 30 for 30 formula. And there was one guy who was very excited about it. And we'd spoken a lot. We'd been chatting. He was thinking about coaching, and he's, I just don't know if I should be dating, but this is what I want. I don't want to slip into this pattern of like just staying in this rut. So that way, when I'm ready to date, it's going to feel really challenging. Whatever, all the things. So he joined, and then within a week, he was just like not around, not participating, not following the steps. And I checked in, and this was so helpful. This was an inexpensive, very accessible program.
Yeah.
But he was like, this was everything I needed to know, that dating is so not for me right now. He's like, being in the energy with these other men who are like really wanting to get on dates, working on their dating profiles, like loving everything in the program, loving that energy. I felt so repelled by that energy, like thinking about women and thinking about dating and thinking about getting back on the apps. It's the last thing I should be doing right now. And it brought him so much clarity, where before he was feeling so much FOMO and he was worried that he may slip into patterns that were gonna be like working against him when he started dating again. That was such a gift.
Everybody always says that you got to heal first before you can go on dates, and it depends. So if you're somebody who has a disorganized attachment style, that can be extremely difficult to navigate, especially in today's dating world, because everybody's all over social media and we love different words that I'm not going to mention here because everybody gets really excited when we say those keywords. You have to look at these things and begin to recognize that what is your emotional capacity in this moment to be around other people. Are you able to give and receive love? Again, that inner acknowledgement of, well, what do I need right now?
Mhm.
With a more disorganized attachment style, it's going to fall under how can I begin to give to myself, accept myself, love myself, and really get into that sense of self and create that. It's the your self image and then your idealized self, and then begin to pull those two things together, fill in the gap in between those two things. Then, over a period of time, when you begin to trust yourself and trust your discernment and your decision making, that's a great opportunity to step out and say, you know what, I am ready to go on a date. I am willing to give this a shot. So for some people, yeah, you know what, isolation for a little bit of time to get to know yourself and build yourself up physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually can absolutely be the right thing to do. For everybody else, I would say, yeah, you know what, get out, date,
Yeah.
experience people, right? But let go of the outcome that comes along with that. Stop pre-qualifying people before a first date. We're going to pre-qualify some very simple things, right? Make sure they're a fairly normal person. They have some social media, hopefully, that you can look at, or at least a LinkedIn profile that you can go to and say, okay, decent human looks like, still going to have my guard up and meet in a public place and have a great exchange with some stranger. I see so many people pre-qualify. This is an anxious attachment way of looking at things. They pre-qualify. They create a story
Mhm.
before they even meet this person. This is the love of my life. They are amazing. I cannot wait to see them. They are a 10 out of 10. They have all these wonderful and amazing things. I look them up on all of their social media. I know their backstory. I know their mom and dad's name. I know everything about them. And then they go on the date and they're like, this is who this person is. And then 3, 6, 9 months later, that's not who the person was. They were never that person. But you've got this story running in the background of what's going to happen next,
Yeah.
instead of leaning into the present moment and actually being curious about the other person to get to know who they are at a fundamental level.
I think it's also I'm going back to just like doing the opposite. So when you recognize a pattern in yourself that every time you end up in a breakup, even if it's short, you date someone for a couple months, like what is that pattern of the way you see yourself getting back into dating? Like what, like really paying attention to your patterns. In some cases, you might isolate yourself for too long. Again and again, it takes you that much more time to get back out there. In other cases, you get back out there like way too quickly. You feel ready. You almost need that. If you notice that you like need that validation or attention, or you can't be alone. You can't take that time and be with yourself. So just recognizing that, and because I've had clients who will slip into taking too much time for themselves, then they push themselves to get back out there faster. Then they slip into that pattern too far.
Mhm.
And it's like finding that balance, but just saying, okay, what have I done the last few times that has not worked? What have I done? What are the actions that I'm taking that are leading to feeling this way, that are leading to filling in the gaps? Like what are those beginning steps look like?
You can begin to create a new framework if you can cultivate enough self-awareness in the moment of how you start relationships. What does that process look like? Look at your past 5 relationships. How did they start? What were the circumstances? Author that story. Get a notepad and a pen, start writing this stuff down. Author the 5 different stories of your past relationships. Where did you start to feel anxiety, fear, pressure, frustration, resentment, distance? What month was that? What were the circumstances? Where were you hanging out? And like really create this picture that's very detailed about the experience. You'll start to see the patterns, and it's just, oh, that's I do this every single time.
Yeah.
And it's always in the 3rd month of dating. Why does it always happen? I have no idea. It's I'm dating the same person over and over again with a different face. So what do you tell people that have that experience?
I You asked me a question before, and I think this may answer that one and this one, which is like really coming back to the process. Like, how do I help men? What is really happening? And a big one is recognizing that I actually had a hard time with this myself with clients because my whole brand is be yourself. The right woman will come along. Like we
But I don't know myself.
exactly, be your authentic self, be your
Yeah.
authentic self. But when your authentic self to you is this anxious version, it may feel like so. Okay, I'm bouncing around a little bit, but here's an example. The client will say, okay, but I texted her back right away because, or I texted her because I was thinking about her. But Kavita, I don't want to play games. You told me that I can be myself. So I felt like I was feeling anxious. They probably won't frame it that way. They don't necessarily know that's why they're doing it, but they will think that they are being themselves. I don't want to play games. I have clients that do this. I have girlfriends that do this. Everybody does it. And what it comes down to is that it's actually not yourself. You have become a version of you that is not your authentic self, that feels like it's you. So initially, playing games feels unnatural, but it's actually your authentic self. That person that has standards, that person that holds back, that person that doesn't react out of anxiousness is the real you. But right now, it's so far gone. It could be years or you never behave that way in a relationship that it feels unnatural and it feels like you're playing games. But it's that version of you that you are working towards becoming. And you need to play those games then. You need to distract yourself in that moment and do something that's good for you instead of jumping on your phone or holding your phone in your hand waiting for her to text back.
On that note, give us a brief masterclass on texting and dating. This is one of my favorite topics because I talk a lot about attachment styles, and of course, texting is a massive part of that, and just how people relate through messaging.
First of all, I said this to a client once, and it was a huge aha moment for him. I said it in passing in a voice note, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, this was exactly what I needed to hear." That you are strangers. You are essentially strangers. And how wild is it to be so emotionally attached to a stranger? And it can feel like it's one way, but she is a stranger to you too, right? So I always like I'll say it like, why are you expecting so much from someone? Like you're a stranger to her. Give it some time. Like, she is not supposed to put her life on hold to run to her phone and make sure that you have been responded to. In fact, based on what you are sharing about the kind of woman that you want to meet, that should be the red flag because you're telling me that you want a woman who has her act together, is independent, has an amazing life, has friends, has hobbies, travels, family oriented. You want a woman like that, but your expectations in terms of her behavior with you, that is misaligned. There's conflict there. So if you say that you admire and are drawn to and attracted to the independent and doing her own thing, then you should not have these expectations of her. So there's misalignment there. The other thing is she is a stranger to you. You don't know her. And going back to what you said, you have created this version of her that is 95%, if not more, totally a story. Texting in early stage dating, I think is unfortunately dangerous when it could, if everyone was on the same page about being hyper aware that I have no idea what they're saying. I have no idea what these words actually mean. There's no tone. I'm attaching a tone, wording, what I believe these words mean. By doing it that way, if we both knew this was happening, but we don't. And we're just not, for whatever reason, willing to communicate with that level of clarity with a stranger. So, a few things: limit how much you text before your first date. If you have a good flow and it's working and it's vibing, great, go for it. I don't think dating is not black and white. It's my favorite part about being in this industry is how it can change from one person to the next if you know what you're doing. Not based on their communication style, but if you are comfortable with communication and you are secure and you're having fun with it, you get to play, right? And if you're excited about this date with someone but the texting chemistry is not there, leave it. It's okay. Leave it alone. With her, it's amazing. You're chatting, memes are flowing. Enjoy it. Great. So there is a level of self-awareness to be able to navigate someone different than the other. But as a general rule of thumb, I would say the longer you text, things will fizzle out if you don't get that chance to meet. I have this framework. It's called the Y+1 method. And it's about how we live in a dating world where it's not just so hard to get the date. Now it's about keeping the date. So it's like
Yeah.
you get the date, but by the time you're actually meeting, it's, oh, you didn't text me all week. I just assumed we weren't going anymore. I assumed you weren't interested. So it's about keeping the date. And there's a lot of miscommunication around or confusion around how much should I communicate until our date? Because yeah, you can lose that chemistry, that vibe that you had when you set up the date can just go like this before the date. It's awkward. It feels like pulling teeth. You're trying to keep that momentum going. The Y+1 method is telling someone when you'll be in touch next and why. I'm so looking forward to our date on Friday. I have this crazy busy week. I'm working on this exciting project at work. Can't wait to tell you about it. Throw in like a little glimpse. This is the why part. Throw in a little glimpse into your life. Share, give a bit more value, right? Offer some value into what you're all about. I'm going to message you Thursday with some ideas of where we can go. So you just want to anchor those two things. When you're going to be in touch next and why. So that you don't not I'm not saying you have to cater to someone's attachments or like anxiety, but there is a lot of filling in the gaps because we're meeting online, because we haven't met before a date. Give them that relief of it's not that they're not interested. Oh, he's working on this exciting project at work. Get them excited. Create that and then be the guy or the girl, be the guy who sticks to his word and reaches out on Thursday. And then if the mood strikes, if you were to message on Wednesday, you send a meme or a message like, oh, I ended up trying the coffee shop that you mentioned. You're right. The cappuccino was amazing. Then that comes as a nice surprise and a welcome surprise. And it feels good and it feels authentic versus this thing that you feel like you have to do because you don't really know how to navigate this space. I think the Y+1 method works really well for both people. You've set up the expectations, everybody's clear on what's going on, and it removes the anxiety for everybody involved and the confusion about when am I going to hear from them? Why didn't they message me? Or is the date still on, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, you will absolutely text yourself out of a potential date. You swipe, you start engaging, and then it goes on for 2 weeks. Maybe you've asked for a date, they committed to a date, and within that 2-week period, you're still texting back and forth, and it's often then it starts to trail off just a little bit over a little bit of time, and then poof,
It's
no
not
more
good.
date.
It's not
Hey, I'm gonna have to cancel. I forgot that I had this thing that I had to do with somebody else. It's not
yeah.
you.
And that is a part of, so I said two, I answered two of what are the biggest struggles. So dating apps, confidence, and the third one is approaching women, like the in
No.
person. How do I approach someone? How do I go up to them? What do I say? I'm too nervous.
These kids today, man, they don't know the pain of having to walk up to somebody at the mall that you're gonna have to see at school on Monday, and to ask them out on a date face to face with just cold.
I know, I know.
Yeah.
It's good time.
It was character building.
It's what I hear men say that it's the number one thing they want to figure out and learn, and women saying it's the number one thing they wish men would do more of.
Yeah.
Although with women, what's frustrating is that we say that's what we want, and then when it happens, we're like, "Don't talk to me." So
Well, there's also, like, different groups of women, so you have to understand which one that you're about to approach, and you gotta be really good at reading the room and the type of person, and then is there eye contact? Has there been a smile? Has there been any pre-engagement before you go in for that cold approach? There's just different things that you gotta be looking for.
I'll push back on that just a little because the best opportunity or the easiest opportunity would be a woman that's on her own, right? Standing alone. Ideally, coffee shops, sitting at Starbucks, whatever. But The problem with today is that everyone's on their phones.
Yeah.
So when you're alone, you're typically on your phone. So I do tell men, like, if you're going to stand around and wait, because I want men to approach women in the most kind of, not waiting till they're at the event, not waiting till they're in the perfect environment. I really want it to become this natural thing about, even if it's just small talk, starting conversations with women anywhere and everywhere, right? Like, you attract what you are, not what you want. So if you're never engaging with women, don't be surprised if women are never engaging with you. Be out there, just talking, have that energy exchange as often as possible. But with that said, if you are in today's world, if you are going to stand around and watch and wait for a signal, you could be waiting a very long time. And during that time, you may come across as very creepy. If you're,
It's looking for that equivalent of the handkerchief drop from old times.
I,
It's like we've gotten away from this, and again, women can have any guy that they want. So all you have to do is make the acknowledgement that I'm interested in you. That's the handkerchief drop. And so we can do that now with body language, with eye contact, with a simple smile. Like that's that invitation in. Or you're at the grocery store and you see a cute guy that you think you might be interested in, and he picks up a box of something. Hey, what do you make with that? Super simple conversation starter, right? And it's just we can shift into these different roles and be playful to begin that starting stage of communication, which I think is very difficult for a lot of people on both sides.
Mhm. I got so excited about
A
the
handkerchief, yeah.
I teach the handkerchief theory like in my courses, literally. And you're the first person I've ever heard reference.
I listen to some Matthew Hussey every now and then.
Okay, maybe that is where I picked it up. I don't even, maybe that's where I got it. I've forgotten. I've been talking about it for a long time now, and it's true. And I
Um,
remind, when I was coaching women, I would remind them, they're like, I don't want to make the first move. I don't want to. And I'm like, women have been doing this since the beginning of time. Like,
Forever.
that is a very feminine. They think that to be feminine means that the man will come. And I'm like, no, that is, being in your feminine energy is going after the thing you want, is being not loud, but being like, yeah, this is what I want. And then taking that step back and letting it come to you. So it's a big piece that I, used to talk to women a lot, like, signal the guy, signal the guy. I feel like I've done my part on the women's side. Now I'm working on the men's
Yeah.
side, but
Use that energy. Draw that guy in. Stay in integrity with yourself and just recognize that you have a ton of power to pull in the type of people that you really want to reel in, but you got to drop the handkerchief.
I hope that all the coaches that are working with women are doing their part and making sure the girls know that they need to participate. This is a two-way street.
Yes. Let's go in for a final question. What are some red and green flags in dating for 2024?
People who, green flag, honor their word. I'm going to text you so it's not about the constant communication. It's not about matching your texting frequency. It's not about any of that. It's just about actually doing the thing that you said that you will do. I find that people are so jaded today because they can't trust anything about their dating life. So the guy will get the date, and I'm like, "Oh my god, amazing. Like, you landed this first date. It's been so long. It's been 3 months since you got a date, or when," and they're like, "Yeah, but is it going to happen?" So it's this flaky dating scene. So I'll speak just based on, because I coach men. So I will coach them and tell them, but women that actually stick to the date, show up, do the thing that they said that they would do. Huge green flag. And it counts for so much more than some of the things that we call green flags. So somebody who's texting you constantly, you may think that's a green flag, but this is the real green flag.
I'll add to that the person that cancels,
Hmm.
but then immediately sets up another time.
Hmm.
Massive green flag, because we have to understand that we all have extremely busy lives. There's always going to be things that are going on, things that are going to pop up, a tire that's going to go flat, a dog that's going to get sick. There's all these things in our lives that are going to happen. So if they cancel, it's not to be taken personal. However, there's a caveat. they have to want to rebook that opportunity. And if that doesn't happen, I would think twice before accepting another date or trying for one.
It's a big one. I think if she reschedules, that is what we it's so nice. It's a huge green flag. I would not say that I would say it's absolutely worth what is the right way to say this? I am quite against dismissing people for their behaviors before we've gotten to know them. So I would not say it's a red flag. I would say it's a super green flag if she cancels and reschedules right away.
Yes.
I would not dismiss someone for canceling and not rescheduling. And I would absolutely encourage a client of mine to suggest the next date. Not immediately, oh, no, no problem. How about next week? Take a break, give it a little bit of space, and then message like, hey, what about next? Because that effort to see if they are interested or not is worth the energy than starting back at square one. That one step of checking. And if you're a woman, and you said it, not me, but if you're a woman who has all the options and lots of messages and lots of guys messaging you and you are super busy, it may not be on your radar to immediately reschedule the date. And especially if you're not probably not being you're probably not thinking, oh my God, I'm the only date this guy's gotten in 3 months. I need to reschedule with him so that he feels secure. Like that, it just may not be the thing. For her, it could very well be like, oh, I'll message him next week, and we'll plan something. Right? It could just be a very simple, normal thing. So I would not dismiss someone for that at all. I wouldn't view that as a red flag.
How can people work with you?
You can find me at Dashing Date, and there are all kinds of ways to work with me. So I do private coaching, we have group coaching. It's called Huddle 11 Elite. And I also have pre-recorded courses, self-paced courses, lots of good, exciting stuff. So if you're a growth-minded man, you really want to figure this out, you want to connect with women, you want to start getting attention from women, there is a way to make this happen. It's available to you. And that's what I help men do.
I love it. What's your Instagram handle?
It's at Dashing Date.
Awesome. Guys, make sure you go follow Kavita and go like all her stuff, share it with your friends, and be sure to join her groups. Kavita, thank you so much for being on the Blueprint Podcast.
Thank you so much. This was really fun.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Blueprint Podcast. If you enjoyed our conversations, I want to invite you to join our communities. The Blueprint is for everyone, focusing on healing the relationship you have with yourself. And I also have the Antera Society, which is a group for men who are dedicated to networking, support, and brotherhood. You can join these two communities by going to the link in my bio and signing up today.